All right, welcome. Today we're going to jump right into one of the biggest questions, maybe the biggest question there is. What is the ultimate purpose of life? And to help us get our bearings, we're going to use a philosophical map drawn up by one of the greatest minds in history, Thomas Aquinas. So let's start with a problem that really every single one of us has to deal with. It's this universal quest that's been around for centuries, and it pretty much drives everything we do. You know, this question right here is the whole point of our journey. It's that thing we're all aiming for, even if we don't think about it in these exact words. And our guide for today, Thomas Aquinas, he didn't just wonder about this. He was convinced he had created a logical map to find the actual answer. Now, you have to understand, Aquinas wasn't just a theologian. The guy was a master logician. And back in the 13th century, he came at this huge, profound question with the tools of cold, hard philosophy, believing we could actually reason our way to understanding what life is all about. Okay, so let's dive in. The way Aquinas does this is he first explores all the paths that he thinks are just dead ends. He starts by methodically clearing out all the usual stuff we chase after. You know, the things we think are going to make us happy forever. So first up is the most obvious one, right? If you want to be happy, shouldn't you just try to have as much pleasure as possible? I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. But Aquinas puts this idea under a microscope, and he puts it through a strict logical test. And here's his argument. He says, look, pleasure is good, for sure, but it just can't be our ultimate goal. Think about it. You can have too much pleasure, right? That's what we call a vice. We even praise virtues like temperance for keeping it in check. But could you ever have too much true happiness? No way. Plus, pleasure is often just a tool to get something else. But real happiness, that is the final destination. So by this logic, pleasure just doesn't pass the test. Okay, so pleasure is out. What about wealth? This is a massive one for us today. I mean, is the ultimate purpose of life just to get rich? Aquinas takes this idea and he holds it up to the exact same logical standard. And this quote just brilliantly nails the problem with wealth. Money is only good for what you can get with it. It's always a means to something else, never the final goal itself. I mean, you don't want a pile of money just to look at it, right? You want it for the things it can buy you: security, stuff, experiences. So if it's not pleasure and it's not wealth, then what in the world is the target that we're all really aiming for? This is where we shift to Aquinas' positive case, and we can see how he starts to build his argument up. Aquinas builds his case with this just impeccable logic, and you can see it laid out right here. He starts with a really simple observation. Everything we do for a reason, an end, and we see that end as something good. Well, it follows then that our ultimate reason for living must to aim for the ultimate good. One single target that has all possible goodness wrapped up inside it. And there it is. That's the destination he's been leading us to. Whatever this object of our deepest desire is, it can't be just another stepping stone. It has to be the final stop, the thing that satisfies every longing we have, completely and perfectly. So after getting rid of all the false paths and setting up his criteria, Aquinas leads us to what he sees as the only logical conclusion, the true nature of human happiness, our ultimate purpose. He basically concludes that our highest power as thinking, rational beings is to understand things. So it follows that our highest happiness must come from understanding the highest possible thing we can understand. For Aquinas, the only thing that could possibly be the source of all truth, all existence, and all goodness is, well, by definition, God. But look, this isn't about just sitting back in a state of bliss. He says it's an active intellectual act, the contemplation of this ultimate reality. Now, what's so fascinating here is how Aquinas frames this. Yeah, he's quoting scripture, so you see the religious side. But remember, his entire argument to get to this point was based on pure reason. For him, this isn't just something you believe on faith. It's the logical endpoint for our deepest intellectual nature as human beings. So why should any of this, this almost 800-year-old philosophical argument matter to us in our crazy modern lives? What's the practical thing we can take away from this whole quest? I think the key point here is that Aquinas is challenging your entire definition of happiness. He's saying it's not a product you can just get or consume. It's an activity, something you do. It's the activity of knowing and understanding what is ultimately true and good. And that suggests that maybe our endless chase for temporary goals is kind of missing the point, and that what we're all really truly after is something much deeper, something like meaning. And that leaves us with a final, really provocative question for our own lives. If Aquinas is right, Are we so focused on all the temporary comforts and goals along the journey that we're actually mistaking the map for the destination?